You know, when people talk about the fighting games, scenery and all that, most people will talk about Tekken, Street Fighter, and Mortal Kombat, along with Soul Calibur and other games out there. But what if I told you that there was a monster fighting game called Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters Melee? Or at least the Pipeworks Trilogy, as a lot of people will look back into it with not only this game, but also Save the Earth and Unleashed. But I think it's cool to just take a look back at some of those games out there for all those different platforms. Or maybe you may have missed this game, never heard of it. But this was everybody's jam. Mostly, all these games are going to be 4 players, and that's basically it. So I say we should take a look into all these games out there. So I just want to give out a quick shout out to a quick game, which is a companion game to Destroy All Monsters on the GameCube, which is none other than Godzilla Domination. It's a Game Boy Advance exclusive, and it was made by WayForward. The game itself is quite similar to its console counterpart, but this thing does play pretty much something like its console counterpart, but it uses 2D graphics and it's all sprites. You control whichever monster you want, and the final boss of the game is Mecha King Ghidorah, and he's ginormous for some weird reason, but it's not a bad game, and I think it's something you guys may want to look into. So the first game is Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, which first came out as a GameCube exclusive. But then we were given another version of the game on the original Xbox that uses enhanced graphics, a new monster, 2 stages, and brand new mode. You choose whichever monster you want to play as, but you can only select 3 during the whole thing, because you have to unlock everybody else, but that depends on the monsters you play. You got monsters like Godzilla, 90s in its 2000 form. You got Anguirus, Megalon, and Gigan, and plenty more, including Mechagodzilla. So after you select your monster, you go around, you beat up monsters, you pick up buildings, throw them. Sometimes there'll be like alien ships or an army that'll either go against you or your opponent, depending on the situation. Mothra's in the game, but it's more like an assist power-up. Speaking of power-ups, you have health, you got energy to refill. You also got rage, which does pretty good with your stats. And yeah, you got all of that. But for the stages, you have this little shield bubble that's around you, so whenever you throw a monster at them, it saps them, which can be pretty funny. But yeah, you can pick up monsters, and you can do like a punch or anything else. Like depending on the button, it does things differently. Monsters can also shoot up beams, but also can do their own special attack, given the opportunity. And that's basically it. And you guys can also play this game up to 4 players. So not that the story is good or memorable or anything, but probably the cutscene is memorable. So the alien started to take over the planet with all these monsters, but only one monster is broken free of the spell, and you're using that monster to destroy all the other monsters, and you fight whichever last monster is going to be. Depending on the character, you're either going to face Mechagodzilla or you're going to face Orca. So yeah, you got plenty of stages, characters, that's fine enough, and yeah, if you want a little bit more content, then the Xbox version is definitely for you, but do keep in mind, I think the price is going to be high these days for some reason being. Okay, then now we got Save the Earth, which came out on both PS2 and Xbox. I should mention you can play Save the Earth on the Xbox 360, but that's basically all I can say, and it runs fine for what it is too. So story, well, it's basically similar, but you get the point. But this one's a bit different. It has updated graphics, refined gameplay, more monsters to choose, and also, if both monsters use their beam at the same time, they'll be having some sort of tug-of-war over who gets more power. The more energy you have, the more likely you're going to win in this fight. But it's definitely a rock, paper, scissors battle where you use the 3 face buttons of square, X, and circle, or A, B, and X, in order to basically beat the monster. Whoever does have the most power and to the furthest to your opponent will basically won, and your monster can actually celebrate by doing that. And yeah, oh, Mothra is now a playable character, by the way. And here's another thing too. Violente was supposed to be in this game, but was scrapped because of licensing. But it was brought over to Unleashed later on. So this one has like new stages and whatever too. Of course there's new monsters, but each of these monsters, as far as I can tell, have like their own stats. I should also say that there's mini games now for some reason, which was borrowed from its Xbox original counterpart of Destroy All Monsters Melee on the Xbox, because Domination is basically what it was. You just score points for destroying buildings. But yeah, this is like similar to some of the stuff. You can fly for some reason for certain monsters, even though some of them don't have the ability to fly, and some of them you have to like defend the city from UFOs, which is hard to control, which is something I did not like. But again, you got brand new animations in the game with monsters, and you got brand new intro sequences for those monsters as well. I should also say that the main villain in this game is Space Godzilla, which I guess makes sense given all the promotion that's been happening with the game. Also, what's cool about this game, it has online multiplayer, although it's been shut down, but I heard that there has been support for other private servers for the game in terms of the original Xbox version, but that's basically it. You still can play with friends and all of that with brand new monsters, so this is something you should look into. But for some reason being, buying monsters costs you a lot of points, but funny enough, gallery and concept art are basically much cheaper. It costs like 60,000 points to get a monster. Yeah, so good luck grinding and trying to get these monsters, and it's kind of like one of the worst decisions I've seen, given they're a bit overpriced on the points. Although you do earn them a lot when you keep playing it, so I guess it kind of makes sense. This was carried over to Unleashed as well. And then we have the final game, which is Godzilla Unleashed, but there was also a DS counterpart called Double Smash, which is more of a beat 'em up, and yeah, nobody liked that one. So that's why I'm not talking about it, and I've never played it before, and the game looks horrendous on DS for some reason. So Unleashed is the final game that Pipeworks made, both on the Wii and the PS2, but the PS2 version came out first before the Wii version. Yeah, that's pretty funny to say. Now, here's the weird thing. Both the PS2 and the Wii version have their own exclusive in terms of characters of who you play in a campaign or anything else entirely. What's also strange is that the PS2 version is just more of an updated version of Save the Earth. And what's even worse is that the intros has been reused only to make it more nauseous and annoying. However, the Wii version seems to have better monster intros, but the controls are something else. There's some stuff where you have to like use the motion controls for some reason. This was said to be an Atari decision, and the Pipeworks guys were not in favor of it. I mean, the GameCube controller would have been a nice option, given that there is GameCube controller support for some of the Wii games, same with the classic controllers. And what's crazy enough is that there was another Godzilla version, known as 1954, which is only on the Wii version of the game. Yeah, that's basically what I can tell you. The Wii version definitely has updated graphics and also has original monsters, which was said to be fan-made contests or something, where it only included 2 of them, and that's basically it. So of course, during the campaign, you do fight monsters, but you also have to play like these mini games again, like defending stuff and destroying crystals from monsters or something, which some of those monsters will stop you unless you also have a teammate. But all these monsters are now in different groups. Yeah, that's right. We got Earth Defenders, Global Defense Force, Aliens, and Mutants. But what's strange is that the PS2 version, you play as Godzilla 90s, but in terms of story mode, I'm saying. But for some reason, the Wii version does not have that option. I should also mention that only certain characters appeared on the Wii and PS2 version. Like, for example, Farhan is only on the Wii version, and also Batra is only on the PS2 version. Violente is also on the Wii version, along with Crystalic and Titansaurus. But I guess because of the controls and all that in terms of the Wii version and the lackluster PS2 version, which, yeah, the controls are better, but definitely could have added more to this version, which pretty much got panned by critics, and many people call this the worst in the series, despite it having great intros for the monsters and better graphics. But better graphics and whatever never means it's going to be a better game. However, there is a legacy for Unleashed because there is an overhaul mod on the Wii version of the game, which is supposed to improve a lot of things. I think there was also supposed to be a GameCube controller mod out there that's somewhere, but that's all I can say. But I should also mention about Unleashed is that depending on the forest you choose, the game has 4 different endings. Like I said, depending on which forest you choose of all those 4 factions, then that's the ending you're going to pretty much get. I don't think it matters what monster you play, but if it's part of that different forest, then that's a completely different story. I mean, I did play both the Wii and the PS2 versions, but I can definitely, when I was playing on the Wii version with the Motion Plus, which is probably an assist, I don't think the controls were as bad as people made it out to be, but it's definitely one of the worst decisions that Atari has made. But as usual, we will not get a new Godzilla game until, well, the Godzilla game that came out on both the PS4 and the PS3, which, of course, did not pan out too well. And of course, Atari would go out of the way to publish the game. But you know, it's also just sad because the Wii version is just the superior version to play, unfortunately. Despite the controls, it has more monsters and better graphics on than the PS2 version. Yeah, the PS2 version graphics are washed out, but even so, if they're like competing against each other, they should still look quite similar regardless. I've seen games being pushed to its limits on the PS2, so I don't understand why they couldn't just do that. I don't know who was in charge of this, but the PS2 version I just found it to be much harder to play for some reason, despite the controls being identical. But yeah, like I stated before, Batra is on the PS2 version, but for some reason, it's just a reskin of Mothra. So it's basically just a clone monster, just like how Godzilla, and old Godzilla are all just basically clones of each other, but most stats of these games are basically different. But it's kind of weird because I get more points in Save the Earth than I do in this game, and it's just sad. But I will say this, is that the campaign has a lot of missions in this one, so I can't really say nothing too negative about that one. Although, most people will tell you that the graphics are superior on the Wii, but again, the whole cutscenes are basically identical, so there's really not much differences, except when you play as Godzilla in both versions, the missions are completely different. And what's even dumb is that one of the tower fights you fight in the Unleashed game, it's much harder to do on the PS2 version than it is on the Wii. It just feels like the Wii version was more finished than the PS2 version, so I just don't understand what happened there. But I will go on to mention that Pipeworks did make another Godzilla game quite after this, but in 2014 as a mobile game. I don't think it's up there anymore, but they did make another monster game called Rampage Total Destruction, which came out on PS2, GameCube, and Wii, which I also think you should check that game out if you're into giant monster games. That one also includes 2 other Rampage games if you guys are interested. But again, I don't think Unleashed is bad in terms of the Wii version, but the PS2 version is just a lackluster version. But if you can somehow play the Wii version with the traditional controls in some way, then you'll get some enjoyment than whatever you're going to do with the waggling the remote for carrying stuff or shooting stuff, or, you know. Because you have to aim the Wii remote in order to shoot your blasts and whatever. So yeah, it's your choice if you want to play either version or both, because both of them basically contain exclusive content. Especially the Wii version have more exclusives than its PS2 counterpart. But did we get a new Godzilla game after this? Well, the PS4 and PS3 game of some sort of movie game did not pan out too well, but in Japan only, there was in fact another Godzilla game. We don't play as Godzilla, you play as one of the people that are trying to escape through the city, which I actually heard was pretty good. But again, it's only in Japan, so if you're gonna, I forget what the game is called, but I heard good things about it. So what do you guys think? Should there be a new Godzilla game coming out?